Hey everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Frank Carlberg, pianist, composer, and faculty member at the New England Conservatory. Frank is here to show us how to incorporate cycles into your compositions.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I wanted to talk just a little bit about this use of kind of a repetitive small kind of cells or elements. So these are very short cycles, really, and they're kind of superimposed on top of each other. This idea kind of was something that to me is related to kind of the idea of kind of New Orleans jazz with its kind of almost contrapuntal kind of flowing sensibility, as well as counterpoint in general, although this is not counterpoint in the strictest sense. In the traditional sense, there's also kind of some connections to Schillinger's rhythm theory in this, as well as an idea that I first heard from the great drummer composer Bob Barack Moses, where he calls that he calls a groove canon. So these are all kind of like related topics. So what I would like to do is kind of maybe talk about one of my pieces, which is called Break Tune. It's kind of a recomposition of a Thelonious Monk tune called Break Sake, which was originally recorded on a G.G. Grice recording in the mid-50s. And I kind of like split that a little bit into atoms. And there's in this piece, there's a long improvised saxophone section right in the beginning, a saxophone solo that has as a background these kind of small kind of cellular things that are mostly a few other saxophones, a couple of altos, bass, piano, and drums. And what we have here is a section that is really kind of, in a way, not even metric. And it's not necessarily a set amount of measures. It's an environment for the saxophone to use for improvisation. What I wanted to have is this kind of flow, this almost like liquid flow to it. So what we have these very short 8-note cycles. So the piano right hand, for instance, has a kind of like a 4-note cell that starts high and then kind of goes all the way low, ascending back to high. And in the notation, it's on beat, the accent is on beat 1 and 3. The left hand of the piano has a 3-note cell, which kind of has the 3rd note of the cell, which is the accent. So that does create a little kind of a cross rhythm between the two of them. And then you have the bass has a kind of a combination of the piano cells in a way. It's a 7-note cell with a 4-note descending thing, followed by a 3-note descending thing, and then that repeats. So we don't really have a clear sense of what the downbeat is. The saxophones, altos, they have both of them have 3-note cells, but they're kind of offset a little bit. So they're kind of offset so that the accents and the shape of those cells kind of overlap. And so together kind of diffuses a sense of downbeat, but gives kind of like this almost liquid background environment for the saxophone solo. Now let's go and listen to the second audio example, which happens a little bit later in this piece. And in this case, we are in a kind of a more specifically metric environment. So let's listen to audio example number 2. What you see here is, for instance, that the flute and clarinet right at the top starts with a 5-note descending thing, which happens 3 times. And then we have a little rest, and then 3 5-note things again. And that equals 2 measures of 4/4. The main melody is really kind of the alto and trumpet 3, which is kind of echoes the original melody, which is in 4/4, but in this case, this melody is really kind of in 7. So we have kind of almost a feeling of 4 and 3/4, rather than 4 and 3/8. So that kind of rolls over the bar lines as well. And then we have the piano has a figure of a 5/8 kind of a little percolating bubble with a repeated note at the top that kind of sticks out a little bit, kind of gives it almost kind of a percussive thing. Bass trombone and bass have a 3/4 figure, which also is combined with a kind of the first 3/4 is ascending, the second 3/4 is descending, and that kind of almost has a kind of almost like a little bit of a tumbao kind of feel to it, but it really kind of stays in 3. And then the trombones are kind of 1, 2, and 3 have a big 7/4 figure that is kind of slightly kind of offset, and trumpet 1 and 2 is in 4/4, and it's offset from the bass and the bass trombone. So like these things kind of together create kind of more of a overall texture rather than kind of like a clear hierarchy in terms of what is the melody and what are these other things, and what is accompaniment. And the drums are kind of feeling more free to kind of catch any of these. In the written drum part, we have a kind of a emphasis on the 2 and 4 of the 4/4 bar. Anyway, I hope this kind of gives some ideas in terms of working with short tiny little cycles that can kind of yield maybe interesting textures, interesting ideas, and also give you a sense of kind of a contrapuntal, traditional and forward-looking all at once. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.